guess this is it. Leia. Hello everyone. I guess we're supposed to start. Mr. Remy, how are you? Boss Zuki, am I supposed to start or should we wait for DJ Kalaf? Yeah, we're good. Hello everyone, welcome to the first of two sessions of the last day of Afrolit sans Frontières. I think today, other than the session we had with Yara and Calaf in the previous festival, nós vamos ter pouquinho de português. We will be having a little bit of Portuguese as well in this session. So I'll just read a little bit very, very quickly in Portuguese, just to give you a taste of Portuguese. Then I'll read a tiny bit in English from the book Transparent City. And then I think we will be talking, okay? So this is a book, it's called Uma Escuridão Bonita, a Beautiful Darkness, something like that. And it's a special book for me. It's a mysterious story. I say special because I still don't understand the book up to this day, and I'm very happy that I don't understand. I don't need to understand. So I'll just read. The dark glasses is just because Remy asked me to put them. I'll just take it off. Okay? Yeah, we're paying a homage to Sean Paul. I'm the cheap version. I don't know who Sean Paul is, but he asked me to do that. Às vezes é bom estarmos numa escuridão sozinha, de gruta e conforto, como se o nosso mundo por alguns instantes pudesse ser assim, sem tom de cor nem distração de forma. É bom dividir uma escuridão com outra pessoa em concha e aconchego, como se dois mundos nessas gotas de negrume fossem um só. Achas que o coração das pessoas é pequeno? Sim, pequenino mesmo. Os olhos habituaram-se ao escuro, o silêncio fica muito nítido na ausência de luz. Na contraluz de luar minguante, podia ver os contornos grossos dos lábios dela, o queixo a imitar falésias e dois brilhos apagados no lugar dos brilhos que um dia foram os olhos dela. Nesse silêncio, eu, de olhos quase fechados, escutava o respirar dela. Pulmão vai, pulmão vem. Era uma onda cega numa praia distante, uma onda comprida de subir areias e espantar caranguejos, de penetrar num chão de algas e colher conchas pequeninas. Pulmar vai, pulmar vem. Naquela respiração, eu sabia, havia um pensamento pendurado. Não fiz nenhum ruído para não sacudir esse pensamento. Mas de tudo isso, e ainda as pernas baloiçando em desenho de abano, eu tinha só carência da mão dela, perto, parada, numa qualquer sugestão mesmo de impossível. Quase não falei o que a minha boca acabou por murmurar. Dá-me só um beijo, pedi. Não posso. Os dentes dela riram na escuridão. Por quê? Porque não tenho vontade. So this is it for the Portuguese part. It's this last dialogue for the ones who are in English. This book, it's just a conversation, a dialogue between two young people in the dark, and it starts like that. He says something and then he asks her, he says, just give me a tiny kiss. She says, I can't, and he asks why, and then she replies, because I don't want to. And then the rest of the book is, he's not talking about it anymore, and, he keeps trying, talking about something else. Then in the end, something will happen. Yeah, that's it. Okay, Zuki, shall I read a little bit in English? Is that okay? Thanks, Peter. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I'll read a little bit in English then, if this does not fall at all. Okay. So this is from Transparent City, and it's kind of in the middle of the book, and something strange has happened, and they will announce it. We don't know yet what it is. And sorry for my English mistakes. I'll just read it, as I can. It's well known that bad news travels fast, and there were no clock hands or ways to measure it. Yet before the news was officially, the whole country already knew it. A wave of sadness and melancholy gripped the elders' faces above all. The younger people weren't indifferent, but it didn't disrupt their day, though they knew to adopt a more restrained tone. Soon after, there was an official declaration. First on national radio and later on television, the condolences and preparations for the ceremonies ensued. The city muffled the sound of its collective musicality, and the candongueiros slowed the rhythm of their movements. Even people dancing the batucada tried to be more discreet. In the outlying neighborhoods, there was civil and political mobilization so that the event would not go unnoticed. The professional mourners, here they are, the professional mourners oiled their dry heels and prepared potions to soothe their throats. Girls' hair was coiffed and in the latest style. Medicine men were ordered to begin farewell ceremonies so that the other world might receive the deceased woman in peace. Flags were lowered to half-mast, and the president decreed a 2-day halt for reflection, with the right to fire off guns in the air in all 18 Angolan provinces precisely at 6 p.m. on each of the days. The priests increased productions of wafers for the Eucharist. The altars were dusted, and the saints took pleasure in being polished by the hands of nuns and children in the service of the church. The interiors of the cathedrals were swept, and the churchyards were tidied. In the more remote corners of the country, where military orders travel faster than civilian news, some people reckoned that armed conflict was flaring up again, an idea refuted by the gunfire's isolation and its excessive punctuality. People drank with that furious inner turmoil that death incites, a blend of anxiety and revolt, nostalgia and indignation. The country boozed up gradually to the sound of soft music and incessant chants of resignation. Death spares no one, Grandma Humps commented, and it's like the rain. When it falls, everyone gets wet. The girls of the workers' district stopped providing their services during those days. Drawing the flimsy curtains of each cubicle, they changed the naphthalene in their trunks, scrubbed the floor with vehemence, leaving the intriguing odor of creoline disinfectant floating over the poor neighborhoods. All the churches spoke in the dense voices of their bells. Inside the churches, lengthy masses were recited in Latin, Umbundu, Kimbundu, Kikongo, Chokwe. Surrounded by his gigantic battalion of bodyguards, the president appeared at the ceremony for a few instants, leaving in his wake a vast trail of flowers that had arrived hours earlier from the best florists of Namibia and South Africa. The family, it was later learned, received an abundant sum of money and the promise of lifelong pensions for immediate family members, particularly the young who remained motherless, many of whom were also fatherless. The material published in the official newspapers spoke of a pact of silence. Nobody else would make a statement on the subject, neither of free will nor when provoked. As during those days, beyond the drinks poured, the parties thrown, the hushed celebrations, and the seculed farewells, there remained for those who do not forget what they read, the title, the enormous black headline of the Angola newspaper: Senhora Ideology is officially deceased. Senhora is like a lady. So this is how in the book they announced, and the country knows, and everyone knows in 18 provinces, that ideology was officially deceased. Yeah, this is the part of Transparent City that I wanted to read. Thank you. So do we now I wait, right? Or I read. I don't have a sound feedback, so unless this book, Os Transparentes, The Transparent City. Okay, it's coming.
For 19er.
Here we are.
How are you?
Woohoo! Now I have to change back. Okay.
You see, rockstar.
Now we're talking.
Right. We're going to ignore the idiot who asked whether Ondjaki is Portuguese for discount Sean Paul. And we'll just get into it.
Oh, I didn't see it. Okay.
Yeah, we don't know him. Some guy called Remy from some country.
Oh,
I don't know.
this is the same guy. He keeps coming. Yes, yes,
I
yes.
know,
I know.
like he's persistent, eh?
Yeah.
Anywho, right. Now,
Do tell me.
When do you play Ondjaki? You have like 5 novels, 4 collections of short stories, 6 collections of poetry, 6 children's books. You've done a documentary. You have a doctorate as well in African studies. When do you play?
Listen, this is all a bunch of lies, which is a great thing because, you know, you just put 2 or 3 lies in the internet, and then they
and
you know,
say
they
it
just
often enough and people believe it.
They just do the rest. So no, I have I used to write even before I was publishing, and so when I started publishing, I had like some books written, and also in my defense, I must say my books, with the exception of this one, Transparent City, they are very, very short. It's a tiny books for, you know, children, poetry. So it's not the number.
A book is a book.
A book is a book is a book. But in the end, I've only written.
Books. But here's a question for you. In 2014, you were part of the Africa 39ers. That prestigious list.
I heard.
That's allegedly a corrupt list because really it's shady. But my question is, you've been doing some really amazing stuff. You've started a publishing company. You are talking about a bookstore. We're talking translations. We're doing crazy things.
We are going to do it.
Yes. Was being on that list one of those things where you felt you had to justify your position, or were you always planning to do it?
No. I have never, ever planned to do that. You mean the publishing house and the bookstore?
Yes.
No. It's actually, it's a very beautiful story, and you guys are going to know it now here firsthand. Is that somebody else invited us, myself and my partner, to open a bookstore, and I always wanted to have a publishing house. And then that person, for several reasons, had to leave the country, and we got up having the bookstore and the publishing house in our hands, myself and my partner now. So we have to do it anyway. But I think it's the right time. I think it's the right time. Not only here in Luanda and in Angola, we do have some bookstores, but not like the one we're opening. You know, this is gonna be like prose, poetry, specific. Brazil trying to call.
Okay.
Are we here?
All right. And they're probably trying to call to tell you that they're watching you on IG Live. Has that ever happened to you?
Just to, you know, just to make sure we're
like just to make sure that you know they're watching. BC has a question for you. She says, you said you didn't understand the first book you read. Did you just let your imagination take over, or do you plot and structure your stories? So a serious question here.
Yeah. Oh, well, let's start with the serious ones. No, that book, Escuridão Bonita, Beautiful Darkness, actually, no, I just sat, you know, sat down, and then I was trying to make up this conversation, and then I didn't stop. That's why it's a tiny book, and it's a book that depends a lot on the illustrations. You know, it's not the text. The text was there, but then this fantastic guy came and did these amazing drawings.
Illustration.
The book, yeah, this book is all happens in the dark, but he did these fantastic things happening here. There's a Portuguese guy, Antonio Jorge Gonçalves, very, very great guy. So the book actually ended up being written when he drew, I think, the illustrations. But no, it just came out. The Transparent City, no, it took me 9 years. You know, it was in my mind for a long time, characters coming, visiting, bugging. And then 2009, I said, this is it. I have to sit and write.
And do it. Okay. Remy asked one serious question. He says that you and him are neighbors. He used the word basically. I hate the word basically, but I'm going to read the way he said it. We're basically neighbors, but we can't get each other's books. How can we solve that issue? How would you get your books to NAM, to South Africa, to Zambia, to countries that are, you know, we have talked about translation, obviously, but how do we do it?
That's true. I think we had one of the most important conversations me and you had in Nairobi was that thing, you know, trying to find a way of doing some sort of translation from some sort of stories that are already written. But the other thing he's talking about is also the distribution. Although I don't think we should be distributing books in Portuguese in Namibia. I mean, he can have 2 or 3 books there. But the important thing would be to translate him.
To translate and then have the books
Portuguese,
available.
or vice versa, English, French, whatever, Kikuyu, whatever. So yes, I think we should do that. I was talking to him the other day, to Remy, that, you know, honestly, and that's why I was talking about the video, that no matter how close Zambia, Namibia, and Congo are, we do have more relationship, professional, civil, personal, with other countries, even in Africa, of the Portuguese language.
Portuguese speaking,
Of course, people in the borders, they have more. I mean, but we in Luanda, in the center, in the coast, we are surrounded by other states and the sea. So I think that's important. We should do that. We should do an, how do you say that, itinerant festival? Like,
yes,
you know,
absolutely.
Same festival happening in Namibia and Nairobi,
just all over. Like, let's go crazy.
Nigeria, they have to pay us to go there, you know, to go to Nigeria. But if they pay, we can.
If they pay us well, we'll love to do it. We'll love to.
Let's talk with Mr. Abubakar.
Baggers, please don't write about this. We're just joking. Okay, we love Nigeria.
Yes, it's a
Yara
joke.
says quantity is not quality. Imagine she comes from her self-imposed quarantine to tell you that quantity is not quality. Yara, we're not listening to you.
No, we know what she's talking about. We know what quality she's talking about.
Size does not count.
Now it's about size, quantity.
Yes,
Please,
apparently it's
let's
about
talk
size.
about
And
literature.
Peter Namu says they're short, but they're beautiful.
I didn't get that one.
She says they're short, but they're beautiful.
Nigerians, they're short?
No, not Nigerians. Your books.
Oh, my books. Okay, okay.
Your output.
It's good to have something short and beautiful. Yes.
And Troy is asking, how does it feel to work in a colonial language that's not spoken widely on the continent?
Okay.
Do you feel your work gets enough exposure?
So this is an interesting issue because actually, in our case, the African countries who speak Portuguese, it's not exactly true. For example, Mozambique right now, in Mozambique, Portuguese is not the most spoken language in the country. But in Angola, it already is because of the war, because of the policies, because of the movimentation of people. In Cape Verde, they speak Criollo usually speak, but they still write in Portuguese. Guinea-Bissau, the same.
But listen for one niner. If you're going to be buying if you guys are busy buying property in Portugal, of course you need to be proficient in Portuguese. You and Isabella.
But I think it's the way things went. I mean, one thing I must tell you that I don't think people from the cities, which is different from people from the interior areas, Portuguese, I'm talking about specifically about Angola, Portuguese is the national language in Angola. National as in the most spoken. I'm not worried with Portuguese here because the Portuguese has a guaranteed space in Angola. The problem is about the other languages that are not being taught. They are spoken for some, the eldest, but they are not being taught. Even Ubuntu, a few years ago, 20, 30 years ago, Ubuntu was the most spoken language in Angola. Now it's not anymore. It's Portuguese. So it's the other language you have to take care about. And second problem, the ones who speak other languages are not reading those other languages. So people who read usually reads in Portuguese. It does not mean we do not have to do something about it. We should. I'm just saying these are facts. Right now, you read in Portuguese. So any writer, I remember writers who still speak and can write in Ubuntu, and they were writing and publishing in Portuguese because they wanted to be read, which is a problem. I guess.
So Nozis, I just noted that for the South Africans on the timeline, Transparent City is actually available as an ebook on takealot.com, so they can get it from there.
Okay.
And Remy is feeling sorry for Dr. Ndlovu because you've got a partner, and I would just like to respond on behalf of Dr. Ndlovu and say, partner is not a mountain. Karawo says she's so happy about Lusophone translations because the parochial province of South Africa is dry. And she says hello, I guess. Deborah is trying to show off his little Google Translate, and it says, Gente vamos pra Angola.
Okay.
And I think you have a question here from Sira 14. Dalunao te esqueças de gravar o livro no film.
Okay.
It's a comment, I guess.
Something.
Remy is asking, is translation a one-way street, everything else into English, but can it be the reverse as well? And how do you see this working for continental works? We have talked about this. We've been in discussion, and we've been talking about Kimbundu and Portuguese as well, isn't it?
Yeah. That's, I think, yes, everyone wants to be translated into English because after that, not only because of the readers, but also because other countries, Chinese, Japanese, whatever, they will read you if you are in English or French, but mainly in English, no? But we were talking before,
absolutely.
and I think what we're talking about is circulating the book among us. So English is important, but let's not forget French and Portuguese and other languages.
Other African
if
languages.
you say, no,
absolutely.
but in South Africa, we do read in
the Hausas.
You see, so if there are people reading Kiswahili, then it's important to translate to that language,
absolutely.
obviously. 500 books, 1,000 books, but it's important to have the books translated.
Okay. In Black with Passiflores wants to know any short story books in the near future. Also, any plans for any English translation of Sonhos Azuis pela Esquinas?
No, I know that book. It's a short stories book. She's asking. It's hard to translate. Blue Dreams in the Corner, something like that. It's gonna be available in German, I guess, next year.
Yeah.
That's what I know. Not in English. No one wants to translate short stories, unfortunately. So no.
I don't know why though, because you know I really, really love short stories, and I'm actually thinking of having, you know. All right, so you get to hear it first. I'm thinking about the next festival, just having like, just we'll have some whatever, but it will be centered mostly on short stories. So
okay.
if
Like
we're still
that in
closing
Croatia.
on May, we're looking forward to that. But we'll also have some people who've written longer prose, obviously. So you heard it here first.
Okay.
Yeah. And then about Convidado de Prilampos. Did you intentionally write it as a traditional folktale?
Which one?
Convidado de Prilampos.
Okay. Yeah, I know that one. It's a oh, no, I mean, I must tell you, I do not think about, you know, the next book is going to be in this traditional style, modern style, post-COVID style. No, I really don't. I mean, I have ideas, and some ideas end up being a poem or a poetry book, some theater plays. And no, I'm sorry, I did not plan. But you know, I'm okay if people tell me, no, the result was this or that or a big shit. It's okay. I mean, I think books are just, you know, in a way, books are just in a way between two people or two countries. You know, you do something, the book gets there and does something else. You never know.
Okay.
Never know.
All right. Yara wants to know, what's the last great book you read?
Wow. That's isso é uma armadilha, no? That's a trap, no? Like
yeah, because we're all listening.
Poetry. I think poetry. I mean, I'm thinking, I'm trying to think poetry, most probably poetry, but I've been reading tiny pieces of this book by Nikos Kazantzakis, which is a Greek author, Ashsez. And this is an interesting one. I do not know exactly what it is. It's not prose, it's not essay. Yeah, but the last great, I must tell you something. There is this author, and they're gonna kill me because I'm gonna say another name which is not African, but we can get to the African names. But this author is an Italian. No, really, it's an Italian author named Erri De Luca. And this guy is amazing. Erri with double R. Erri De Luca. He is amazing, really. But of course, I've been reading last book from Luandino Vieira is an amazing book. Luandino is an Angolan writer, and he published these notes from the period where he was in prison. And it's amazing. You can see, of course, personal stuff, suffering and all, but you can also see pieces of his thoughts while he was writing certain books. So if you remember the books, now you know what he was feeling when he wrote them in jail. That is also a great book. Yeah. Erri De Luca. Yeah, Maza. Erri De Luca.
Okay.
Maza is commenting
so,
Erri De Luca.
Ndebo wants to know whether you can write a book together.
Yeah, I mean, I see no problem in writing, as I see no problem if when you're writing, it's a big shit, you stop writing. You gotta be courage enough to do that. You know, I can write with anyone or alone, but I don't, you know, I think we should be careful on thinking that it's good. No, maybe it's not so good and you stop it. Or we can just do for fun, maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Fitanambu wants you to suggest Angolan writers besides Agualusa, Kalaf, and Jamila. Can you do a top 5? Well, we've got Yara Monteiro, but
Yara,
more beyond Yara and yourself and Agualusa.
I
in
don't like
Kalaf,
to
in
do
Jamila.
top fives, not top threes, not top tens. I'm so sorry. No tops. But I can tell you any names. More, you know, for example, okay, let's talk about the names that are usually not mentioned because Luandino is mentioned, Pepetela is mentioned, Agualusa is mentioned. We have poets. We have Ana Paula Tavares, great poet, a lady. We have Lupito Feijó, great poet. We have José Luis Mendonça, great poet. We have João Mayomona, great poet. And this is another problem besides the short stories. Poets, they don't get translated. It's very hard. That's another idea, Zuki. We should have a fund, some sort of money, in order to publish those who usually don't get published.
Don't get overlooked. Absolutely. That would be amazing.
Poetry and
but I
theater.
mean, it's also,
No? Yeah.
It's that idea that we're talking about, that we're hoping that after COVID, we can actually get it going. But yeah, let's keep chatting. Maza wants to know, do you have any plans to provide workshops for translators and for editors? We need to do more than write our works, and your publishing company is a great idea.
Okay. And how would I do those workshops? By bringing them and you think it's bringing them and offering workshops,
and
local
training them?
workshops?
I think Maza, probably, you know, a lot of small-time publishing houses, and I speak for myself, and I think I probably speak for you as well, Ondjaki, is there generally isn't a lot of funding to even do the printing of books itself and the editing and whatever. So, I mean, obviously, at some point in time, if we do get a whole lot of funding, all of us, we'd love to do that, I think, you know? Yeah.
I was just thinking how could we do those workshops? But yes, it's important.
Yeah, no. It would be lovely because, I mean, obviously, it won't be the type of workshop where you have like people who are translators. You'd have translators, but who are creative writers, because creative translation is very different from the type of translation people do for conferences and stuff, you know. And unfortunately, a lot of the times we've seen books that have been translated and they lose their art in translation.
In Brazil, they usually have, they prefer when a writer is translating than a translator itself, you know? And I think it's just a matter of a good translation. I think there are writers that do good translations, and I've seen translators that are not writers doing an excellent work. But in my opinion, they are also writers because they do that kind of work, you know? But they're not known as writers. But yeah, it's a very, very not well-paid work, and unfortunately. It should be.
Well, okay. Frankie says the love affair is over. I'm not sure with who. Well, short but beautiful. Enough. Frankie says enough with the Niger trolling. So that's to you.
Okay. Enough is enough.
How are the whales in Luanda?
How are they?
How are the whales in Luanda?
Yes, I've heard that a few days ago, some dolphins appeared here in the bay, and they were dancing, huge dolphins, amazing stuff. And we were all happy. Then a friend of mine told me, no, that's just an old footage, you know, they're not, you know, from last week. So unfortunately, I think the whales are moving further south to Namibia or further north to Guinea-Bissau. I don't know, maybe Senegal, Gorée, maybe, who knows?
Okay. Karabo has a serious question. Odonato is a nostalgic fellow. Do you think that this generation of Africans have a misplaced nostalgia for a pre-colonial identity, given the crisis of governance in contemporary African nation states?
Actually, I do understand the question. I've known people who do have that kind of what he called misplaced nostalgia. But in Odonato's case, it's not even before independence, I think. As far as I understand, Odonato is missing the first years after independence, where, do you know, just a fact, right after independence, when President Agostinho Neto was still alive, and in the first 4 years, from 75 to 79, they did a great job in terms of alphabetizar, you know, teaching people, adults, how to read and write. I don't know, it's the process of alphabetization. How do you say that in English? I'm not sure. You know, when you teach people to read and write, you know, to reduce the levels of illiteracy.
Oh, illiteracy.
Yeah. So they did a great job in first years, you know, lots of volunteers, people working that right after independence. And so I think Odonato got the best of the socialist era of Angola. It was not all good, of course, but there were nice things.
Things that worked out well.
That's where Odonato stays. But I do understand his question. And yes, I've met people here with, you know, I had a friend, a great friend here in my house, Camarada Antonio, and he was always missing the time of the Portuguese. And we were discussing, myself as a kid being grown up in a communist country, and he, Antonio, defending the Portuguese. And that was something that amazed me. And I was like 6, 7 years old. And I was thinking about the country as a whole. And he kept telling me, for me, it was better when the Portuguese was here. And I said, Antonio, for you yourself, your family, but the whole people, the black people of Angola, no,
we're not experiencing that. Yeah.
I mean, so it's that, and that is a misplaced nostalgia in a way. But in the end, do I have to respect that Antonio felt like that as a person? You know, who am I to say that Antonio was wrong? I think he was wrong.
What you call it are not valid. Exactly.
He was wrong in terms of politically views, but you know, who knows?
Well, maybe we need to do something in order for him not to be nostalgic for that colonial era. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And in that case, that's what you said. You know, if you do better now, like when you go to Portugal and some people say, oh, do you remember that time when we were there? And I said, listen, there is nothing wrong about us getting independent. That's not the problem. That's not an issue. Everyone should have gotten independence even before 75. No, the problem is what we did after that. You know, I don't think you should question independence. There is no way you should question that. Because, you know, that there is no way they should occupy. So there is no question about independence. The problem
this is particularly interesting, Ondjaki, because this evening we're going to be questioning independence when I'm chatting with Ishmael. So that's going to be very interesting. Kalaf says, absolutely right. We need to fix this issue of languages. Fantastic. Nanjala says, I love transparency. When you read it in English, do you feel like the translator captured your thoughts and vibe?
He really tried. He's a very good translator. Stephen Hannigan is a writer from Canada, also a writer, also a translator. This is the third book he translates, so he's getting to know me and my books better, I guess. And yes, but we always lose something in translation, and we always win something in translation. So in my point of view, he might have lost something and he might have done things better than I did in Portuguese. So in a way, it's his book. The translation, it's always a new book, always. But yes, I think he tried to do a good job because it's extremely hard to translate this book, specifically this one. It's very hard.
Okay. There's a question from a veteran Namibian writer called Remy.
Okay.
And he wants to know, what is your curly hair routine?
This is an
important question. What is your hair routine? How do you keep it looking like that?
And pay attention. All the questions from Namibia usually are this deep, which is amazing. They have excellent questions. You know, my hair suffers a lot. I do not know how to take care of it. My nieces, my sisters, they como é que se diz? Elas me ralham. They're always after me because of that. No special care. It's just like that.
Yes.
And it's about to go. I must tell you, it's about to go.
It's just Vaseline and E45, Remy.
Are you familiar with Vaseline, Remy? It's something that you use for, yeah. Okay.
Nego says he wants to translate short stories. Bisi says, short stories are translated. Karabo says short stories are everything. Question, in Blackwood, Passiflora, will Disoxy reappear in another book soon? Disoxy?
Which one?
Disoxy?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
the character.
You know, that's in Kimbundo, it's Disoshi. Sorry, it's because of the
Oh,
X,
Disoshi. Okay,
Disoshi.
thank you.
And Disoshi is the singular for tear. Ma soshi, ma, it makes the plural. Ma soshi, it's tears. And Disoshi, it's just one tear, Disoshi. Yes, she will, because, you know, there are so many things about this lady, Disoshi, that I don't know. And I mean, Disoshi is a character that appears in The Whistler in another village. So I want to write the story of the place where she departed, where she's from. And I must tell you this: in her village, she's not the only Disoshi. All the women in her village, they have this name, Disoshi. The way they call each other, it's not about the name; it's a gesture. Everyone has a way of calling other. So everyone, all the women, they call Disoshi in that village. But the way you dance with your hand, that's how you call somebody else, another Disoshi. That's everything I know. I don't know anything else about the village.
You know what I was thinking while I was listening to you? You said Masoshi is plural, right? And Disoshi is singular. You know, in Shona, the word for tears is Misodi.
Oh,
yeah,
it's quite close, no? Misodi.
I know.
Yeah.
Right. And here it is. What is the question you wish people would ask you?
I think I'll have to disappoint you. I don't have a question that I wanted people to ask me. I'm so sorry. No, I'm I should have thought about it, or what?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's the theme of the festival, dude.
No, I was joking. I know exactly what questions people should ask me.
What is it?
What's my first memory?
Yes, what's your first memory? Tell me.
My first memory as a person is a smell. I think my first memory is a smell. And I was here in this house where I'm now. This is not the place where I live. I'm here because of the quarantine. I'm here with my parents and my grandmother. She's 104 and she doesn't care about COVID. She just, she just doesn't care. So she's still here. And in this house down there, there's a tiny garden. And I was there. And I remember being there. And there was this smell between rain, green, and dust. There is something between these three things, and that is the smell I remember, but I do not know exactly what it is. If not, people ask me, do you know what's the last book you're going to write? And yes, I do. It's not written. Yeah, I know the story, more or less. It's a very difficult one, so I'll leave it like for the last one. And,
so can you tell us?
Yeah, it's a book about a story in the south part of Angola. And do you remember the Caminho de Ferro de Benguela, the railway? You know, there is this guy, he was coming, not David, Smith, something Smith. He was coming from another place and they put him here to build a railway. And he was coming from other railways. Guy came from South Africa or whatever. And he stays here with the family. And then, so it's a story based on that. You know, what happened to people around while they were in Lobito, in Benguela area, building that.
But why are you making it your last book? Well, why can't you just write it now, Ondjaki?
I'm not ready.
Okay.
There's another one. It's when I write that book, I'll die. So I don't want to write it now. That's the last book I'll write, you know. So after writing that, I'm ready to die. So, you know, I can't write it right now. I mean, I can, but I shouldn't.
Okay. Leia wants to know, what language do you think in? In what ways does it show up in your writing? And I would like to extend that question and ask, what language do you dream in?
Yeah. Actually, another disappointing question for you guys. From here, from my country, I just speak Portuguese. But I do think a lot in English, and I dream sometimes in English and Spanish.
Okay.
Spanish, which we learned here from the Cuban teachers during the 80s. So I didn't know there was a language called Spanish. I thought the language was named Cuban. So
Okay.
because my parents, you know, spoke other languages, one day I came home and I said, you know what? Now I speak another language too. And they said, oh, are you learning English at school? I said, no, what English? I speak Cuban. And no, and that was it. And they laughed a lot. And I was so sad. Why are you laughing? It's true. We speak Cuban at school. And they were, no, we're not laughing at you. You know, they were like, you know, because they found it very funny. So yeah, sometimes I still dream in Cuban, not in Spanish. Those are languages from the heart.
You know what just reminded me of? One of my friends asked my son,
Mm-hmm.
one of my friends asked my son whether he knew how to speak, you know, Shona at some point in time, because he'd been in, you know, he goes to them all the time. And he responded, yes, he did. He knew a little bit of Shona. And the friend asked him, what do you know how to say in Shona? And he said, I know how to say comrade.
Comrade is a very important word.
It's a very important African word, you know.
You know that story, no, about the guy who was stealing something in the streets in the 80s here. And then the police came and said, hey, you thief. And I said, no, I'm not a thief. Yes, you are. Let's go to jail. And when they got there, he has to speak to the most responsible cops there. And he said, excuse me, this guy is calling me a thief since he got me. Excuse me, I want to be called comrade thief.
Comrade.
You know, so this was very serious.
Of course, comrade thief. Diego wants to know, despite being a Lusophone writer, apart from Zugiswa Vana, do you have any Anglophone literary influences?
You mean apart from Zuki, Remy,
aside from Zugiswa Vana, do you have any?
Abubakar, Mr. Chris Abani. You know, I used to read more in English while ago. No, I still read them, but when I find them in Portuguese, and we were talking about this. This festival was very important, of course, by what it is doing, but I think we will see the result of this. We are making a connection among ourselves, this Afrolit Festival 1 and 2, and I think we are getting the feeling and the curiosity of knowing each other. So for me, next step this 2020 year is to read at least one short story, poem, or book of all these participants. You know, some of them, Chris, I've read, Leia, I've read something, Zuki, I've read something, but the others, no. Even Yara, I need to read Yara. Kalafa, I've read some things of him. Remy is, you know, always it's there by my bed. Remy, this wise old writer from Namibia. But yes, it's that's part of the thing we've been talking about, doing anthologies, or at least, if not anthologies, reading each other, commenting each other. Of course, not by favor. If we think we're good, and probably most of us have good things to be shown, we should also talk about ourselves. Yes, I agree.
Okay. Kalaf says, you are definitely a Luanda writer. Do you think living in Rio de Janeiro changed the way you write?
Well, I lived there for a while, but I also lived in Lisbon while I was studying there. And it's something very strange and odd for me. I'm not sure if it's good. I tend not to live as in L-E-A, leave Luanda, even when I left Luanda, you know? So when I was in Lisbon, it took me a while to be there. My mind was always in Luanda. And mostly when I was in Rio, I know Rio so bad. It's a shame. You know, people go to Rio and say, can you show me Rio de Janeiro? And I said, oh no, I know nothing about Rio de Janeiro. You know, I happened to be there for personal reasons, not political reasons. And then I came back to Angola. But no, I don't think it affected me. I think it always affects the person you are. And the person you are will affect your writing. I can't say directly that being in Rio affected my writing. Not directly. It affected for sure the person I am. Some stories, I'm waiting. I still have a book to write about all those years. I've lived like almost 8 years in Brazil. But, you know, it's not like a migrant. You know, I don't stay there the whole time. I kept coming home. So I never felt like, so it's different. It's different from someone who has to go and stay
with
there.
Me, like I'm back home like all the time as well, but I stay here. But does not being in the geographical space give you a certain clarity of looking at home sometimes, where you are able to love it, but also critique it in a certain way that you wouldn't be when you're grounded in it, and maybe you're being a little bit more defensive? I wonder whether that happens to you, because it happens with me.
I really think you win and you lose, right?
Yeah.
You win by you know, by taking some advantage of that distance, and you lose not being there. For example,
immersed in it. Exactly.
Calaf knows that, because in Luanda, as I guess in other places, but in Luanda, words, rhythm, music changes every week, not to mention every day. So you're losing it, you know. So that's why I'm telling you, I had to read and listen to the radio and pay attention to my nephews and nieces, what they were telling me, because language and rhythm is part of the Angolan's life. And for me, it's very important, the rhythm. So not being here, yes, maybe you see things in a way, then you come back, then you understand some things, you know, people from the outside will ask you, so you're there now, you don't criticize. And I said, no, it's not that I don't criticize, but by being here in Luanda, I understand
I'm
better.
able to see with a certain clarity.
You know, so, you don't criticize the president. No, I do. But I can understand better also his problems, because I'm here, you know.
Okay. Vincenzo wants to know, what is the title of Luandino Vieira's book?
Yeah. It's Os Papéis da Prisão, like papers from the prison. Let me see. It's in Portuguese, it's this one. Os Papéis da Prisão. This is the one. It's a huge book, but it's a very interesting work.
Maza wants to know, do the languages in Angola have a written tradition? They're mostly oral. Is the transfer of stories in those languages into books an unnatural act? How do you maintain oral stories?
I am not a specialist, Maza, but I'll try to answer that. Some of the language, some have like 13. Some of them have even done by the time of the Portuguese and American Protestant priests, they have dictionaries and grammars. That's not the issue. The issue is that those dictionaries and grammars were like used by 5, 6 elite people to study that, right? So Kikongo, Kimbundu, Umbundu, Chokwe, Nyaneka, Kwanyama, they are still spoken. Written, not that much. There are books translated into Umbundu. Again, who's reading those books? You have to find a person who knows how to read and write, who knows how to read and write in Umbundu, who has the money to buy the book, who has the the custom of reading books. So that would be the question, right? But yes, it's possible. The thing is that we are independent since 75. Okay, the war ended in 2002. I know. So it's 18 years ago now. So let's not talk about 75. In these last 18 years, should we not have a national politics about the national languages? You know, people keep asking that here. So I think we should. But I don't work for the Ministry of Education or the government.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Any advice for young writers? We're about to close down now. So any advice for young writers on how to keep a roof over their head and still write?
The same advice we were talking a little bit before, that we have to read ourselves inside the continent. That's, you know, I'm really thinking about this. It's very important not to read just the big names from the outside. But as for money, that's what it means, right? How to keep, I really don't know, Remy. I think we all do things that we have to do. You know, I keep accepting sometimes classes now via Zoom or whatever. And I don't know, it's not easy, but I don't think it's easy anywhere. You know, I know young writers from Brazil, from Chile, from Portugal, from France, and they're struggling. You know, it's not easy. It's not easy. I think you should not quit writing. You say, oh, but I can't publish. Okay, you can't publish. We'll publish someday. But writing is something, publishing is something else. You might not be able to publish right now. If you want to write, just write. It's important to write and live what you want to do, right? And then about publishing, the roof.
Okay.
I don't know how to keep the roof.
Final question. You are also a poet, but if it came down to it, poetry or cocaine?
Poetry.
Okay.
Poetry.
Is there any money in poetry?
I don't think you should go there. You know, do not put money on this road between cocaine and poetry, because that's gonna be somebody else is winning other than poetry.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Ondjaki.
Thank you very much.
I see a few wonderful comments from Bissy and from Maza regarding what we can do regarding translation. I think we should carry this conversation to the green room and see what we do with it.
Okay.
You've been amazing. And
thank you so much.
Love you, and it's so fantastic.
Have a great festival. See you later.
All right. Save the video.
But should I save now, or can I keep waiting? What happens if you keep waiting? What happens now? How long do I have until
what must happen now, you know?
It doesn't say anything, you know, it's not saying anything about you have to hang up. No, it says nothing.
Then just hang up.
Beijinhos. Até já. Obrigado. Até já.
Obrigada.
Xande Paul.